Well, good evening and welcome to this edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Biston. Joining me as co-host, Jason Juggling J. Ford. Well, Jay, we've been in correspondence with the national cricket coach who just indicated a few minutes ago that they were in a meeting, that he's just leaving the stadium after a cricket meeting that actually went longer than anticipated. So we're hoping that at some point in time, we were hoping last week we would have gotten him, but we're hoping at some point in time he can log on and have a quick chat about what challenges are ahead, because clearly, I attended a training session that they had on Saturday, a bit disappointed, with what I saw as far as the turnout. You get players, but are they the players? Are they our best players? And then again, you have to turn around and you say, well, you congratulate the ones that put their hand up and say, I'll do the job.
Well, first things first, good night, Earl, and good night, everybody. It's so funny that I had this conversation. Somebody brought this conversation to me the other day, right? And first things first, you guys this, you guys that. And it went on from there to about got into national sports, whether it was football and cricket.
Mm-hmm.
How come we never take our best? How come we never this? How come we never that? And I said, it's so strange enough. Me and Earl had this conversation last week because it seems like we have it every other week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I'm saying not unfortunately, you can only go with people who's committed.
Thank you. Yeah.
So whether it's coaching, whether it's the players, whether it's the administration, it only happens when all three of them are committed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If there is a break or lack of commitment in either one of those sectors, we suffer as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. As a country, as a program, yeah.
Okay. And whoever's the remaining two or the remaining one would be scapegoated for the whole.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're seeing where there's been lack of commitment in each one of those sectors over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And the other ones who were committed got blamed for it.
Yeah. The ones that actually go and do the job, they get blamed because they're not quality or they're not ready for that next challenge. They haven't had enough experience at it. But they're the ones that committed to the actual program and made themselves available. Now, for whatever reasons, the others didn't. But we have to stop. Clearly, we have to stop blaming the ones that make the commitment and challenge the others to find out why and for what reasons they're not making the commitment. Find out what it is and try to figure out how we can, come to some common ground, because we don't have a big pool of players in any sport. In any sport we have. We have to utilize what we consider our best talent at the precise times that we need them. And, we have to figure out a way around getting them to be committed and available to represent the country. Simple.
So, as amazing you said that, right, about our pool, our player pool, especially with cricket. As we know, a lot of the competitions that we're involved in or committed to, we're playing against teams where you might as well say some countries maybe giving away passports, as they would say.
Yeah.
So that conversation I had with this gentleman, what's taking us so long to do that? I said, number one, we have immigration laws that prohibit that.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the argument, what happens if that happened? You'll be the first one saying, well, our local boys can't make our local team.
Yeah. They say it about the workforce, because that's what we're talking about, because it filters through the workforce on a day-to-day basis.
Once you cross open that Pandora's box?
Yep. You can't close it back, You cannot close it back. So
I I just for some I don't know. Like I said, I'm on the outside, and I probably for me personally, I probably need to raise my hand and be more involved if I'm trying to be a part of that solution. I think
Mhm.
that's me personally.
There is a way around. There is a way around for cricket. I know there's a way around it because if someone has worked in the country for, I believe, or been in the country for 190 days straight,
Yeah.
they are eligible to represent that particular country because they actually are committed to that country for work purposes. Now, do we go and get them and utilize that avenue to get them to play? That's another discussion. But there is an avenue for us. We don't have to give them, quote unquote, a passport. They just have to show that they've been working in the country for X amount of time, and they can become eligible in that regard.
Now, let me play devil's advocate.
Mm.
How does that affect our youth academy? Because when you're
Can I ask a question there? Do we have one? Do we have one?
I know they're in place. Yeah, place. So, these things.
Okay, so you're talking about the under-19s, or you're talking about younger?
All of it. When you look at youth academies, right, and when you look at academies, look at a professional system, right? Whether it's soccer or football, whatever. When you look at a youth academy, the goal is to rise through the youth academy to play in the first team.
Yes.
Right? Any academy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but if you start, and you see this in EPL, right? I'm going to use EPL in England for example, right? If you start bringing so many foreign-based players, it prohibits the amount of availability for the opportunity for the youth academy players coming through to the first team.
Right. But remember, the UK government then stepped in. I don't know if that's where you're going, but remember, they stepped in and said, hold on. There's got to be a percentage.
But I don't think, that's the thing. For some reason, I don't think that percentage is being.
I just think they have to have them on the books, not necessarily playing. They just have to have them on the books.
So I'm looking at the percentages of a lot of these starts, like these teams on a weekly. I'm looking for that red and white flag, and
if you look at the top 6 teams in England, how many English players actually play for those 6 teams? Start. I know the English goalkeeper's in relegation with Watford.
So just next year you're gonna have a championship goalkeeper starter for your World Cup team.
But there lies a big problem. Now, I would say this. I went to Warwick Academy on Saturday where they were having a volleyball tournament, and there was youth cricket going on there.
Yes.
Now, Jay, there had to be anywhere between 100 and 150 kids. Whoa. Right? Okay. My problem with that is once they get to a certain age, where do they go? We don't see the continuation. We don't see.
How many sports you want to go across that has the exact same problem?
Well, yes, but if we're talking about keeping kids involved in, most of those sports stop having people when they get 16, 17. Where are the under 11 leagues? Where are the under 13 leagues? Where are the under 15 leagues? Our kids are stopping at 10 in cricket. Because you go from probably 150 to probably 20.
So let's think about it. And obviously, until we do a study to really find out, some ins and outs, I'm pretty sure those kids are not stopping playing sports.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
Right. So what has made them switch a sport.
Mm.
We saw that over COVID, right? Some sports were allowed to play, some wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers, and we heard of some coaches and presidents say they've lost due to COVID, right? We heard that from Ben Smith,
Yeah.
right? We heard that with him. So it's gonna be interesting how we manage that, because I think when if we go back when we was coming up, we didn't have as many distractions. We was I want to say tribalism to a point where we knew what we liked, football and cricket, and that was, the odd will go track and field, and the odd would do hockey, or the odd would do, something else. But like we was already programmed. Certain time of year, like, okay, I put down the bat and I pick up a big ball, or I put down the big ball and I pick up a bat. Like, you're almost programmed. Where these kids now have been exposed to so much at an early age, is that do they probably even have the true love for the actual sport?
Yeah, but let me ask you this question, Jay, because this is kind of interesting. What else did you do? You rode your bike.
Oh yeah,
you played marbles.
All day.
You would swim.
All day.
So we had distractions, but we included those distractions in our day-to-day programs. These kids today, their distraction would be indoor, where we were outdoor. We were more physical. We were more physical in our day-to-day being, where they're not as physical in their day-to-day being because of the electronics.
Right, and exactly. You have a teenager, right? So you could speak more to that. I'm pretty sure he's not on there. Okay, back in the day, we had to play by ourselves. We got on by ourselves. We played by ourselves.
One touch, one bounce against the wall.
No, but I'm talking about the late 80s or the early 80s, where they came out with the first bunch of electronic games, right?
Oh yeah.
It was either one player or two players.
Yes.
Find somebody to play with you, it was just you. That's going quick.
Yeah.
One game I think that people actually probably played for a while was Pac-Man, that you could probably play for yourself and enjoy it. But for the most part, you need one. Nowadays, as you know, you could get on and you could be on for a whole team.
Yeah.
Playing together, right? So,
and they don't have to be in the same country.
So personally, I think, just me looking on the outside, right? I think that has more of replaced us going outside to have a kick, going outside to play one bounce, us going outside to play tippity go run, right? Because that's what we done freely, unstructured.
Yeah.
With neighborhood kids.
That's right.
But what do they do now? They stay indoor, a game, unstructured with their friends.
Yeah. Got a point. Let's take a quick commercial break. Good.
No, I'm just thinking that's the way I could be totally wrong. Until we see some numbers or somebody's done a study on something like that. But that's something that like I said, I mean, I talked to Mr. Best last week. And we talked about it many times. Once upon a time on an afternoon, you could find any open area of grass
filled with people playing
until dark. Nobody knew what time it was until it got dark. Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Street light comes on, time to get in.
Time to go. And that's rather if you move the rocks out of the road for the girls, or you move the shoes out of the road, or you move the trash can out of the road.
Yeah.
Bro, when's the last time you see the trash can in the road that actually people playing cricket there?
It's been a while. It's been longer than I can remember.
So on that note, we can go to commercial.
Sure.
We're featuring a range of remarkably effective household cleaning solutions made with ecologically sound ingredients and pleasing fragrances from Ecos, a company with over 50 years experience producing plant-powered cleaning products. The founder was a veteran chemist in the cleaning products industry and started up Ecos as a response to the harsh chemicals he had routinely encountered. Try Ecos non-abrasive cream cleanser, vinegar window cleaner, and in spray bottles, Orange Plus and Parsley Plus cleaners, shower and floor cleaners, furniture polish, and stain and odor remover. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Welcome back. Well, Jay, we have been talking about, a multitude of sports. Of course, we do talk a lot about football and cricket, our two national sports, but as you indicated, we have that drop off in pretty much all our sports. We can look at golf. The youth program, they have a big number, and then there's a period where it drops off, and then they kind of fall back in love with the sport and come back out later on in life. But it's that we have to figure a way collectively to keep people going in sports, especially if it's something that they really like, and figure out why they kind of walk away from it.
So one component we haven't been included in this conversation, especially tonight, right? We should have been included. It's the financial side of it, right?
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain point, now there's real cost.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with the national sports first, right? Let's start with national football. Did you buy a pair of boots this year?
No, he brought his hands.
And how much were they?
Knocking on 2. Back when we were playing, Jay, 2 pairs of boots wouldn't cost you.
Couple of girls.
Yeah. I remember Puma was just coming out then too. What? Mm-hmm.
Ashley Footwear had them.
Yeah.
You kind of got them, right?
For a hard start, for a soft start, to know where you at. Yeah.
You at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cricket. Let's call some
Wow.
cricket now.
Must be about $800 now to get pads, bat, gloves, helmet, thigh pads, chest pads.
Okay, golf. Let's go golf. Because remember, you're always gonna want the equipment to.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
go ahead. Talk about golf. How much does it cost you to get golf?
Golf clubs, set of golf clubs. My gracious, Lord.
And no, you're not a junior, so you're probably playing. Now you got off age. You're paying a regular round now, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you make a valid point, because a round of golf isn't cheap. Even if you're a member, you okay. So you might play. When you do play, you pay for a reduced rate, but you have to pay to be the member. So is it really a reduced rate? In the end, depending on how much you play, you might make it off, balancing it out.
Let me switch. Let me go next. Bowling. How much these bowling balls cost?
Oh, wow. Well, you would know. and then there's a big cost to get it drilled, isn't it?
No, it's not a big cost to get a drill. But
No?
Some guys would have multiple balls, which are called.
Oh, yeah. Well, whenever they tour, you see them with 5, 6, 7 balls. I'm like, how many balls can you build at one time? Well, this one does this and this one does that. Oh, okay. All right.
Last time I checked, which was 10, it was 15 years ago, they were 150 plus.
Well, that's double by now. If not close to it.
So let's go to the next sports. Horses, well, we know what horses are. Okay, motorsports, well, we know what that is, right? Yeah, as a youngster, you get on a rental car. Sure, yeah, car.
Sure. I mean, even last year, powerboats had junior boats that they rented. That was just to bait you in.
Once you get at that certain age, you ain't got a boat.
Yeah.
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 Jet ski. How much a jet ski cost you right now?
Mm.
Cycling.
Yeah, bikes are just as much as jet skis.
How much is a good cycle? You know.
Guys are paying upward of 15 for a bike that you paddle.
And hold on, and then you want one for the mountain bike series too, right?
Yeah, mountain bike and time trial. You got to get the wheels for the time trial. You can probably use the same bike, but you have to use different tires, different wheels. Yeah.
So I really, that's what I was saying. It's across the sports. Across the sports, we all think about the commitment or the distractions or sometimes, but a lot of times it's comes down to really financials, right? And then if you're looking at that certain age, Earl, if you're looking at that certain age, these kids are probably still relying on parents.
Parents, yes.
You're probably telling them, no, it's time for you to go get a job. Or they're in school. Or they're in school and the parents are paying school fees. Right? So that age from 18 to 25 will suffer because of, or 16 to 25, because that young person is starting to transition into adult life as far as adult feels, right? And a lot of our sports are not sponsored.
Right.
A lot of our leagues are not sponsored to probably take care of some of those costs of competing. Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean, you look at the top cricketers. Some of them would have 2 and 3 bats coming to a game. You know,
they're coming from the top ones. That equipment will come from their sponsors.
Yeah. So it's we find ourselves in a very peculiar position, especially in that age group, because, like you say, so they're transitioning to either college or university, or they're transitioning to work, where there's another commitment. So it's all about how we manage that period of time to keep them somewhat involved while they're making up their mind whether or not they want to stay involved.
It would be interesting the next time you're able to speak with Delray Rollins or Naki Wells, right? Either they're professional, they're getting paid, right? But what would have been the cost of their gear?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they didn't even look at that. But it's interesting.
Because somebody's still paying for it, right?
Without a doubt. Yeah.
We look at when we spoke with Flora Duffy. We look at a lot of the massages, the ongoing massages and training and this and that. That all comes with a cost.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
So that's why I think was probably one of our biggest reasons. Yeah, we have a commitment in this, that, and the other, or even social ills around certain sports.
Right.
But I think realistically, finances
plays a major part. Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by the likes of Liam Evans, Andrew Bascom, and Richard Codrin. We're going to be talking about strength and conditioning, the benefits of youth athletes, and why it is important. We're going to have a conversation around that. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Back in 1995, a pair of entrepreneurs working in their garage with essential oils began to realize the potential of organically produced body care products. Now, in a 56,000 square foot facility, EO products are shipping to millions worldwide, an inspiration to aspiring family businesses to be sure. EO products were the first in their field to follow the quality and safety guidelines established for organic foods in their production of high-end organic body care products. This month we're featuring EO Lemon Coconut Lotion. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. And we are joined by Andrew Bascom, Richard Cauldron, and Liam Evans. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time out to talk with us this evening. Richard, you have this seminar coming up with just implementations of advice. Can you just give us a brief little background of what is on offer for the wide audience of sports in Bermuda?
Well, thank you for having us first. And I mean, shamelessly give a plug to some of the sponsors that allows us to be there. So I want to say thank you to Skyport, Grotto Bay Resort. Without Grotto Bay, trust me, a lot of events would not happen. BGA and their products, BioSteel and Lucas A, which is relevant, of course, to what we're going to be discussing. The Argus Group at Butterfield Bank. Now that I'm through with that, I'll answer your question. Many years ago, when working in California, I was fortunate enough to work for a small nutrition company, and we engaged some high-end exercise physiologists. One of the gentlemen was Mackie Shilstone, who, if you read, you'll see that most recently he had people like Venus Williams, but he's had some top athletes across many sports. And To the Bumper, who we bought here, when was it, 2008?
Yeah.
When we were running the Bermuda Football Foundation, and we brought him here to introduce periodization training. But years ago in California, when these guys were discussing this, and of course I was talking about the marketing of these products, I got to a better understanding of what it really meant. To have a proper systematic planning of training. I think as I mentioned in the article, I got up every morning and ran 5 miles. I had no clue if it was good for me or bad for me. It just seemed to make sense. I had no clue if the work that we were doing at the club level or the national level, no disrespect, but if it was planned properly, if it helped or hurt us, we seemed to be fit. But I had a pretty devastating grade 2 hamstring injury, and because something as simple as I didn't understand that there was a proper balance between my quads and my hamstrings, and it kept me on for 14 months. It wasn't a complete tear, but it was severe. So I took this stuff serious. We brought him to Bermuda. We had hoped that we'd get more coaches involved. Andrew was there, of course, and it was outstanding. I mean, he put together a systematic training program, periodization training, which the beauty of it is, and I'll let the experts like Liam talk about it in greater detail, is you can plan your schedule across the entire year, preseason, season, postseason, when to eat, what kinds of foods you should eat, and protein, carbohydrates before, because as Liam will tell you, when you work out, you tear muscle, and you should put something back in your system after. And those are types of things, the types of how much work should be done during a session, how to implement the conditioning into a proper weekly session. I think, and I'll let Ian and Andrew talk about that in great detail, but I think that's probably a weakness in sports. So we've been trying to get Javier to Bermuda for the last 3 years, but because of COVID, we finally materialized this year, and we're very fortunate to get his wife, who happens to be the doctor for the Real Madrid Academy, and also work with the women's under 16 and 19, I believe, the age groups, women's national team, but also is a doctor with the Spanish women's national basketball team. So these folks have a pretty strong grasp of what it is to condition athletes at different ages all the way through pros. So that's the reason we brought him here.
Not a problem. Before I go to Liam, Andrew, I want to say good evening, first of all. But over the years, now that you've got this experience, how important is it to have someone on the team that understands what we're discussing tonight, because a lot of times back in the day, the coach done everything. The coach had, and couldn't understand or didn't understand injury stuff. They just said, okay, you're injured, put some ice on it, kind of thing. But as we've grown now into the sport, how important is it to have somebody of like Liam around a club team, so that when you get to a national program, it's just a transition?
Well, first of all, good evening, Earl, and to your audience. We've decided to go down this path with Liam because we have a relationship with various top clubs in Europe, and they're youth scouts. And one of the things I was interested in, what are the qualities are you looking for in young players? And I was surprised with the list of 4 top things that they were looking for. First was attitude. It's the first. You must have a good attitude. Second was technical ability. Third was physicality. And tactical was at the end of the list. And I realized why that's there, because at the higher level, coaches come and go. But you have to have the right attitude to adapt to any coach. You have the right technical ability to be able to adapt to any system that's implemented. And you have to have the right physicality along with, so you can play over long periods. So we've hired Liam over 2 years ago, and what he does, he takes our U13 kids and U15 in his whole body weight. He doesn't do any leg lifting at this present moment. But every Wednesday they go to him for an hour and they enjoy it. And I tell you, I can see the difference, and I can see the importance of having someone like them, because they know exactly what muscle groups they're targeting. They know exactly what's needed for specific positions. Like I was speaking to Richard about the modern day fullback. Back in the day, the fullback didn't go across the halfway line. Today, the fullback is running the whole length pitch. Now, for me as a coach, especially at the senior level, to keep up with modern trends, we're going to ask that of our players. Or we have to ask ourselves, are they properly prepared to do the work that's required? And meaning nutrition is most important as well. And the physicality. I mean, you look at a field could be 110 yards. A modern day fullback can cover that, what, 8, 9 times and a half, if you're asking them to get in at least 6 or 7 crosses. So once we know the demands that is placed on the young player, it's important to bring people in that know exactly what they're doing. Like me, when I was raised, at times at the national level, we went to Mr. Long. He gave us the proper running tactic, but that was as far as we went. But that even helped to improve, because I was telling Richard, if you can increase your speed, you get to the ball early. You get to the ball early, you have a lot more time. It helps with the amount of decisions that they get to choose from. But it's very, very important. It's equally as important as the other 4 qualities that is looking for young players. So to have Liam on board, I tell you, is a big asset. I mean, it will be encourageable if almost every club can make an investment and finding money for these type of experts to come in and assist with the progress. Because I was telling Richard, whatever was going to take our kids to succeed, we must do. I think kids now are outgrowing just to enter to compete. I think our athletes want to win. And we have to ask ourselves, are we giving them a fair chance of winning? Are we covering or ticking every box that is needed for them? They have the desire, they have the passion, they have the will. Are we ticking all the boxes that they need, so when it's called upon, it's there? Because talent's not a problem here. Talent is definitely not a problem. I mean, we just need a direction, we need a focus, we need a 5 to 10 year plan. We need to have all these things in place. We hire locals, we need young therapists. It's so much more jobs that are involved around creating top athletes. And then even not just to be professional, but to be able to entertain their own fellow man once they get to the senior level. So that's very important. And it's very important to the athlete.
Liam, first of all, good evening. But you work with a multitude of sports people and understanding what is needed at certain times and so forth. So give us a brief background of how you actually came into the field you're in, and what are some of the most important things that you have to look out for, especially for a kid that's probably 12, 13, and working towards being, wanting to get the most out of them by the time they're 17, 18?
All right, well, first, good evening. Thank you for having me. So yeah, to answer that question, or those couple questions, my background in itself, so I played football, still play football, and I initially went to university on a Division I scholarship. So I played out there, but the biggest transition for me coming from Bermuda was that physical aspects of things. So when I went out there, I had very little to no experience with, a weight room or anything like that. And when you get to, whether it's college or even pro, whatever, strength and conditioning is going to be a part of your everyday life pretty much. So whether you're in season, out of season, whatever it is, it all changes. Like we talked about periodization, all that stuff, but it all changes based on kind of what season you're in. But it's a part of it nonetheless. And so that was my first experience with it. And it wasn't actually until kind of my last year where I was still kind of deciding on the career field that I knew I wanted to be involved in sports and whatnot. And my degree was in kinesiology or exercise science. And it just so happened that I was able to just do an internship with our strength and conditioning coaches, because football is a fall sport. So in your senior spring, you're essentially a normal student for your last semester.
Right.
I got to take that 5 months and actually just be hands-on with all the other athletes and learning from the coaches. And then from there, I decided to get my CSCS, which is kind of the baseline strength and conditioning specialist certification. And then, like Andrew said, I came home in, 2019. And within a few weeks of being home, I had a meeting with Andrew, and he was like, look, what can you offer me? What can you do for me? And I kind of laid out a basic curriculum of what strength and conditioning is, and, how it can be of use and beneficial to the kids, especially, and to his program. I'd like to say it's been smooth sailing ever since. During that time, I also decided to get my master's degree, also in exercise science, and was lucky enough to do another internship at University of Florida last summer, which was pretty cool because it was also Olympic summer. So they had their, Olympians in there as well as their student athletes. So that was an awesome experience for me. So that, from there, I've just kind of taken it as definitely a passion of mine now to come back to Bermuda and essentially offer something that I think there's a gap in the market for. And, at least as far as qualified professionals with the right experience and all those sorts of things. So that's kind of my background into all that. And then working with, especially FC basketball, like you said, I work with kind of a multitude of athletes, both youth and adult, and sports at that. But especially with FC basketball, what we're kind of focusing on more than anything, because we don't have, BA doesn't have a gym to itself. It's pretty hard. That's another thing. Facilities here are kind of lacking in that sort of thing. So I looked at this season basically and said, look, what do I want to get out of this for these kids, and kind of what areas do I want to tackle, and how can I do that best? And for us, that's been going over basic movement patterns. So, every session we will go over just basic squats and push-ups and stuff like that. Just more than anything, because we don't have any weights or access to weights, more than anything, it's just ingraining that in them. So when either they work with me privately or get to a level where they can do that stuff, they already have that as an easy transition. And then looking at other things, just teaching kids honestly how to move and command their bodies in space and understand how things, happen. I get them, rolling around, doing things. We sprint essentially every session, just because I think Richard kind of touched on this before. If you really, a lot of previous coaches, I guess, or whatever, have been scared to, I guess, sprint their kids just because they're scared that they're going to get injured. But when you really look at it, and it's like, if they're only hitting their, maximal speeds in the game when they're fatigued and stuff like that, that's what's going to cause their injuries. Whereas we kind of microdose their sprinting. So basically their warm up with me, we go through a general warm up where we get everything going, and then transition that into some skipping, A skips, B skips, bounds, all that sort of kind of lower level plyometric stuff, and then transition that right into acceleration and sprints. And it's not a lot, we'll do 30-meter sprints, 6 of them or something like that, but it's just something to give their bodies, exposure to. And then we'll transition into, some agility work or change of direction, which is another thing that I think people get confused about, because coaches will set up cones and then call that or a agility ladder and call that agility work. And while I use agility and speed ladders for other reasons, they are definitely not to develop agility or speed, because agility is essentially reacting to a stimulus. So if you tell somebody a predetermined set of cones to go through, you're working on change of direction, which is another aspect, but it's not agility. So basically this whole, to sum everything up, this whole season with them has been what are the lowest hanging fruit that I can attack in the space that we have. And that's, that's just part of coaching is adapting to your situation. So with my other athletes, we have gyms, we have equipment and all this other stuff. So, I'm able to attack that side of things with them. With the footballers, it's also a tougher population, especially at the youth level, because a lot of them don't understand why they need, to be working on these things. So another thing I always do is at the end of practice, or even at the beginning of practice, I'll say, look, give me 40, 45 minutes of hard work. That last 15 minutes, we're going to throw in some balls. You guys can play, because it helps them kind of want to come back just so they know that they're going to get a little bit of football work in there. And like I said, that's just adapting to, your clientele and knowing who you're coaching and kind of what they enjoy. So hopefully that gives a little bit of a broader.
It does. I'm going to let Jay getting in a question.
First things first, guys, I want to salute the three of you guys for taking this journey, because as we know, knowledge is power. And to understand where we're going, we got to know how we got to get there. And I think with the information that you guys are bringing, that we need to know. But this, Andrew and Liam, hope you guys, this is a two-part question, because when we talk about sports, and especially with Bermuda, we was just talking about the transition of kids from basically 15 to about 18 to 21 years old, right? So the two-part question is we have the nutrition side of it, which is very important, because if we're talking about doing this actual work and we're going to tear muscle down and build it back up, we're going to make sure we're putting the right fuel in. One part of the question is our social culture, whether it's our food that we take in culturally, the alcohol we may take in culturally, how are we is this program going to just address some of those issues? Because for an athlete, it's all fine to say we're going to have this major workout throughout the day, but then weekends, we're at some brunch and we're living it up a bit, so we might go right back. Also, the importance of the recovery. You hear so much within professional sports, the recovery side of it. Andrew, I know back in years ago, coaches say, let's go for a swim.
Yeah.
We don't see too many kids down Sanders or, off the rocks anymore like we used to. So can you guys address the nutrition side and the recovery side with this group of kids from 15 to about 20 or 15 to about 20? How do you attack that?
I can speak to the recovery side and its importance, especially in tournament. It's important. So like it has to be a lifestyle, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What you eat, how you manage your body, what you put into your body, and all that helps with the recovery. But especially in tournament, if you have a key player that might have a little knock, you can go to the professionals. Look, this is what's required. What can you do to assist? And they know exactly what to do to target that. Like you said, we used to go for a swim, but there are other things that they have in place that can assist without doing that. Mm-hmm. But that's the importance of having professional people, passionate people, and to have a genuine interest for the forward movement of the athletes that are in front of. But I'm sure Liam can speak to the importance of the nutrition and how our culture is not really in line with what it takes, for a top athlete. So that's work that has to be done. I totally agree.
If I can chime in real quickly, Liam, I had a conversation with a U.S. track coach, one of the better ones, I'm not calling any names. And I asked him, how is it that Jamaican track athletes can compete with Americans, Europeans, Canadians? And in a word, he said, nutrition. Jamaican athletes eat well as children, so when they get into the programs at universities in the United States, we don't have to correct bad diets. That's not the case in the U.S. I think we went into a bit of that problem in Bermuda as well.
I find that Kenny Thompson was very big on nutrition. Yeah. Because he wanted to maximize, and Kenny spoke about this years ago. Yeah. It's critical. It's critical. And he knows the importance of it. And that's, probably why some of his teams do so well. I'm sorry, Liam.
No. That's all good. And yeah, to build on that, nutrition, obviously, I don't think anybody would doubt its importance. Food is your fuel. That's how we run. That's how our bodies work. The funny thing with nutrition here, well, I guess I'll tell a quick story first. So in my first season, actually working with Andrew, I remember showing up to one of the games, and one of the kids, maybe 45 minutes before kickoff, pulls out like a KFC zinger, and I'm like, probably not the best thing we should be eating. And funny enough, it gets like kind of deep into the game, and he's looking just super fatigued, and ends up having to come off the field. And it's hard to kind of get the message of nutrition across to kids. Sometimes they have to figure it out for themselves. So one thing I said to him was like, look, why do you think you feel the way you do right now? And he knew. I'm not saying he never ate another zinger, but he wasn't eating them before every game. But then, so on top of that, right now you're right. The culture here of food and everything in everyday life. So just take your local season is not great, just to put it bluntly. But then we'll look at taking any sort of, whether it's a under 17 or the 20 national team or the men's national team, whatever it is, and we'll try and focus on food on that trip, which, yes, that's all well and good, but what is that really doing for us if it's, that 1 week where we're actually competing is the only time we're actually focused on nutrition? And two, it is a touchy thing to do, is to switch up people's routines and their daily, what their bodies do, all that stuff in that right pre-competition, game day -1, 2, 3. It's a tough thing to do, and athletes don't always respond well to it because it's not what they're used to doing. And whether it's the, optimal thing for them to be eating or not, it just doesn't sit right with them. And then they're, they may, for whatever reason, strangely enough, they may not feel great or not feel nourished enough or whatever it is. So yeah, the nutrition part is huge here, and just trying to get across to kids the importance of it. I know with my youth athletes, whether it's the swimmers or the footballers or whoever it is, I just try and ask them, on a scale of say 1 to 5 or whatever it is, how do you rate your nutrition this week? And they know that obviously they're kids. Not every meal is going to be a perfect plate of everything, but it's like, look, if you had, 1 or 2 kind of maybe unhealthy meals or whatever it is, that's, as a kid, I can deal with that. If the rest of the 5 days a week or whatever it is, they're typically eating pretty good. So, and I was looking back at all that data recently, and it does show that, they do teeter between that line of kind of good, kind of bad, and kind of, I guess, finding that midline for them is the biggest thing. But then also with nutrition goes right into recovery, and nutrition and sleep are essentially the 2 best things that we can do for our bodies to recover. There's all these, whether it's swimming, cold baths, warm foam roll and trigger point, all these added things that are, in my opinion, they're great recovery additions, but they're not the base of our recovery. If you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating well, doing all the other stuff really isn't going to do much for you. It's when you're sleeping well, eating well, and then on top of that, we're getting some, whether it's myofascial work in, or depending, cold tubs have, their time and place. That's a whole different topic to get into based on what the research kind of says about that. But, whether it's all those sort of things, if you're not doing the first 2 right, then those really aren't going to do much benefit for you.
Good.
And also, Jason, as I listen to Liam, I think this is where the parents can get more involved because they prepare the meals. And maybe we as clubs, I know we put a nutrition guide up on our website, but maybe we as clubs can maybe have something in which we can get to the parents of the kids and show them the importance and how they can play a very crucial part in their kids' upward forward progress, other than just being sideline coaches on a Saturday morning. We can show them that your son needs these type of meals, this category has to be covered and whatnot. And that realize the importance that they're also playing in their kids' development, and help them keep a keen eye to that side of the child's. So we could take care of the field, they could take care of the nutrition. We have to strengthen them. We can try to cover all areas.
And on top of that, just building on that, sorry, Coach, on top of building on that, hydration is also very important. You'll lose so much body weight just from sweating out during a game or whatever it is. And if you're not replenishing that, it can actually, have effects on just your decision-making late in the game, stuff like that. So keeping actually optimal hydration pre and during and post. And there is, scientific kind kind of guidelines for that. So like if you lose a pound of body weight, you should be drinking X amount of fluids after and getting your electrolytes, all that sort of stuff. And that people can find kind of on the internet if they're interested. But yeah, hydration is also an important one along with the nutrition.
Sure. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more with Andrew Bascom, Richard Colgren, and BM Evans. We'll be right back.
Every month is snack month for us, it would seem, as long as they're the helpful, guilt-free, delectable snacks we crave. Enter the Daily Crave, a company whose first product was churros, the well-loved Spanish treat, followed by diversification in the form of classic puff snacks and chips. They ventured beyond the traditional list of ingredients. The grains are gone, replaced by lentils, pulses, and cassava, slaking our craving with a vegan-friendly, gluten-free snack that satisfies. This month, we're featuring the Daily Crave Quinoa Bourbon Barbecue Chips. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. A quick question, because Andrew, you and Rich really knew about this. Back in the day when the transition started, where you had to convince guys to do more physical but implement the ball in it. Because back in the day we used to run around the field 10 times, and that was part of fitness sort of thing. But then implementing the ball to do a lot of the other stuff. What if you can? What is the difference between training the young athletes and adults in that same mindset?
Well, with the young player, you try to have everything evolving around the ball. Everything, agility work, conditioning, short sprints, running with the ball, because you want them to develop their relationship with the ball. But with Liam, then, especially when it comes to senior players, I can tell you back in the day, sometimes when you ran around the field, either was punishment or the coach was trying to make up his mind what to do for training.
Right.
What's the latter?
But it had a positive effect, because I think, when I was coming through, each player took that personal responsibility to keep himself fit, because we had a different game back then. Back then we were playing man to man. Yeah. So that's you're talking about pressing the ball. Back then you was constantly under pressure.
If you're in the middle of the park.
Yeah, especially if you're in the midfield. So, guys that got up regular man for runs, that was our own personal development. And I see that's one of the biggest difference between the young player and the older player I see today. The older player took more responsibility for his personal game. Young player relies that up onto to the coach. Like if a player had a bad game personally, it's the coach's fault. I had a bad game back in the day, I took responsibility for that. But if the team played bad collectively, that was the coach's responsibility. But we took out on our own. I can remember Monday mornings we got up and went for a run. It was just so competitive then. And I think it was such a climate in the country is that perfection and wanting to be as fit. Even if you was technically one of the better players, you still wanted to be in the top 5 when it came to conditioning. But the biggest difference today, like you said, with the young player, you need to have the ball.
Yeah, one of the things. I'm sorry. Well, one of the things you'll get out of the how do you battle is conditioning and exercise that he will show in the practice is all the work is with the ball. So he's bringing that, and of course it changes by sport, but everything he does, and most things he does, of course, the exception of stuff he does in the gym, when he's on the field, it's with the ball. So you're getting fit while you're playing.
Sure. Jay, you have a question?
Yeah, guys, I was just thinking about something that Liam had said earlier, and I'm thinking that even with my journey, with my body, it just the human body is amazing. It's amazing orgasm, right? I mean, it's amazing. How much are you doing as far as teaching the young people about self-evaluation? Because, for instance, like a NASCAR driver, for them to tell the mechanics what's going wrong with the car to improve the car, he's got to give the mechanics the great information, the good information. So as a young player coming through, how do we get through to these young players to assess and self-evaluate themselves, whether it's physically for the trainers or even technically for the coaches? Because I think a lot of times I could go speak to a young player now, and how do you think you felt today? I mean, and it's a short conversation. It's a short conversation. Now, whether they would, I didn't have enough breakfast, I had, just different things. How do we get that message across to the young people?
I can start for this one. So kind of you just said it. So whether it's when I'm with FC Basketball with my kids in the gym, whatever it is, honestly, the first question that comes out of my mouth to them is, how you guys feel today? And sometimes it's real quick, kids, they'll be like, I'm fine, or whatever it is. And sometimes they take a second, they hesitate, or you can just see it on them. So for me and for what I do, especially if it's in the gym, if I could tell a kid just looks either mentally drained or physically drained, whatever it is, then yes, I do have, an overall plan. And maybe I had, just for arbitrary sake, I wanted them to squat, 80 pounds that day. That was on their program. That was in their progression, whatever it was. If I see them like that, then I'll probably just tell them, look, let's either take that out completely or drop it down. We'll do 50 today. Let's feel good. Let's get out of here today and be able to walk in tomorrow and then hit it, whatever we need to hit tomorrow, versus potentially injuries and things like that occur in my area when things aren't all there, whether it's neurological fatigue or just, their bodies just can't handle it on that day. And then we dip into an overtraining period where that's where we can start to have some long-term detrimental effects. And that's getting real, out of the way with it, especially when it comes to kids. But it's something that I always like to have in the back of my mind, because I'd always rather do one less and be able to come back tomorrow than try and do one more and hurt them for a month or 2 months or whatever it is. So for me, it's as simple as one, just asking them question how they feel, how their game went, how their whatever it is, just get a kind of line of communication with them. And then also sprinkled in throughout what we do, I always try to educate them on whatever it is. So whether that's just, giving them real names of body parts or kind of why we're doing what we're doing, what effect that's having on their metabolism or their energy system. And obviously some of them will just, that'll go straight over their head, and that's fine. But some of them will take a keen interest to it, and some of them, will actually get something out of it. So kids are all different. You have to, there's a lot of ways. You got to have a lot of tools in the toolbox, but that's just kind of my basics of how I kind of connect with the kids and get the most out of them through just developing that relationship with them.
Well, I know we're going across the time, but I want to keep you guys going because I think it's important. And I think this question here is really important because I think, and Andrew, you touched on it, parents and players need to know this. What are the difference between a strength coach and a personal trainer, and why is it important for any athlete to know the difference?
Liam?
Yeah, I guess I got this. So to break it down real simply, my whole reasoning for wanting to go back to school and get my master's and get the experience and the CSCS and everything like that is because a lot of times with Bermuda, we do things easier just because we can, because there's either no one else doing it or people don't understand the difference between this versus that, a personal trainer versus strength, whatever it is. And I wanted to bring the level of strength and conditioning that essentially I could go and apply for a job at a college or even a pro team or whatever it is and be, an eligible candidate for that job based on my qualifications and bring that back to Bermuda. So essentially right now in the strength and conditioning whole realm of things, whether it's North America or Europe, wherever it is, to be competitive for a job, you need a bachelor's degree in an exercise science or related field, a master's degree also in a related field, a CSCS, which is the Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, or there's a couple other CSCCA qualifications that you need. To take those exams, you have to have a 4-year degree to be eligible just to take them. And then on top of all of that, it's coaching. So a lot of it comes from learning from experienced coaches. And like I said, I had the opportunity to learn from some very experienced coaches who coach high-level athletes for 2 different internships. And that's, I'm still learning every day and perfecting what I do. But that's kind of what goes into being a strength coach, because it's a holistic thing. As far as a personal trainer, and there's, this is not a slight, there's great personal trainers out there. There's great personal trainers here. I know a lot of them. But to get a personal training certification, you essentially, sign up to one of the, you can go on, I don't know, ISSA or sports medicine, whatever it is. And, you get the study details, and depending on how quickly you can get through the material, you can be a quote unquote certified personal trainer in a couple months or whatever it is, which is great. And especially if you're dealing with general population or maybe some more of the bodybuilding type stuff or whatever it is. But as far as understanding kind of the nuances of what goes into strength and conditioning and how we're looking to have muscles adapt to different things and the different levels of periodization and programming and stuff that we look for with overall athletic development, and whether that's youth athletic development or, an adult, it's just a little bit more kind of into it, that even all the science and school knowledge that I have, it kind of just sets the foundation for me to then grow and learn from other coaches. So that's kind of the quick difference, I guess, between the two.
Okay. Jay, you have a question?
No, I'm just here. I love this conversation because we're always learning, right? We're always learning, and like I said, the knowledge is power. So when we're always sourcing more knowledge, and I'm just hoping that you guys are able to have sustained sponsorship, because I know this stuff comes at a cost. But what is it? What is the cost of our young people? What is the value of that? And I think this is where a lot of times that we find money for other things, and then when it comes to young people, we seem to put this high cost on something that we claim that's so valuable. We claim that it's valuable, but we're very cheap if what we want to pay. And I think what you guys are bringing to the table, and I know when parents see the outcome of this, they could only be proud of not only their children, but also the individual themselves. They will know how much their body is valuable. And I think that's my main point, that I want to say thank you to you guys, to showing young people how valuable their lives are, whether it's externally or internally, how valuable their lives are. So I just want to say thank you guys.
Well,
One of the critical things quickly for everything we do and we've done is to train local coaches, trainers, to keep the information here. It's one thing paying for their trips overseas or bringing someone in and they leave. We need the information to stay here. In other words, we need more qualified coaches, be it the technicians, the tacticians, the nutritionists, the strength and conditioning coaches. We need them all. So this is one of the things that we haven't done before. Well, we've done it once, but we're glad to say that we now have a pretty good cross-section of people that have signed up for this event. Coaches from a number of teams, both physiotherapists, of course, and a couple of trainers. And Liam, you'll be happy to hear, you may know a couple of young kids that are studying exercise physiology at university. That's 18 and 19-year-old kids. Trust me, I'm glad you guys have shown up, but I'm more glad to see 18 and 19-year-old kids studying in university, wanting to get involved in this type of development.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. Is just, for me, I didn't know that this was a career that I could go until I was, got to out to North America and stuff like that. So for me, yeah, it's big on just letting kids know that this hopefully in the future will be a viable option for them to come back and, get into this career field. At the end of the day, there can't be, just a few of us. There has to be, a whole team of strength coaches on the island to deal with all the kids, all the athletes, everyone we have here. And like you said, hopefully that encourages parents to, see that we do have some really good resources here. And for some reason, they're not quick to spend their money in Bermuda, but as soon as it comes to spending a lot away, they're quick to do that. And me and Andrew have had a lot of conversations about parents and what people spend their money on. But at the end of the day, if I want to have a job, if Andrew wants to have all it, like we have to get paid for what we do, and we have, people have to value that. So for us, it's just trying to build that value and as you said, educate people on what we do and why we do it.
Sure. I've got two more questions, but Liam, are local youth athletes at risk of injury from overuse participating in multiple sports? Because that's a big concern. You see a lot of parents racing from one sport to another if their kid and they're going all day on a Saturday, they're training all through the week at different levels in different sports. So is there a concern in that area?
So yes and no. There's definitely a concern, I would say, with just overuse in general. And you're right, a lot of kids, back and forth from one to the next. But there's also a risk with overuse if kids are only to do one sport at a very young age, from a very young age until they eventually become a pro or go to college or whatever they do in that sport. There's also a risk with that. So I'm a big proponent of, not specializing too young. Yes, kids are always going to have, I was the same way. I was football focused, but, whether it was at school or, some stuff in the off season, I was always doing other sports as well. So definitely getting kids involved in multiple sports where they're using different parts of different muscle groups, different this, different that. That's a big thing. Obviously, you do have to be careful as to how much they're doing, trying to kind of essentially periodize that throughout their year. So maybe in the summer when they're not playing football every day of the week, they're doing a different sport or doing something else. And then on the flip side of that, if for some reason they, they only like football or they only like one sport, that's when strength and conditioning also becomes a real big thing, because let's take a swimmer, for example. That's a lot of overhead shoulder use that they're doing if they're only swimming. So for me, my job essentially is to counteract that in a lot of ways. Yes, I'm adding to their ability to swim and stuff like that. But at the same time, if they're doing a lot of pulling, then we're going to do some pushing. And so I always get parents asking me, oh, can you create this sports specific program for my 12-year-old? And I'm like, at the end of the day, sports specific for a 12-year-old is anything. Like they're becoming an athlete. They're not just a footballer or this or that. And so we want to kind of take that more holistic approach, especially with kids. And then, it starts general and eventually we can tailor it towards where they are at in their both chronological age, biological age, and their career and all that sort of stuff. But to just go back to that first question, I don't think it's a huge deal if they're doing more than one sport. It's just how often they're doing multiple sports in every day. Then we might you're going to get some tired kids, and that can eventually lead to one, burnout, or two, worst case, some overuse injuries and stuff like that when they do get to their prime years. And we don't want that. So I always tell parents, like, whether your kid is super good or at the sport or whatever it is, they're not elite at age 12 or 13. They're just a really good footballer. And that's what we got to be happy with. They're a really good footballer that we will hopefully guide on a long-term athletic development path so that when they're 16, 17, 18, 19, then they can get into those elite zones. Because elite sports aren't always, it's a job. It's a lot of work. As kids, we want them to still have fun. You got to enjoy the sport. So that's kind of overarching for that question.
Sure. And Andrew and Richard, what are you most looking forward to over the hours spent in the upcoming seminar? What are you hoping or what is the message you're hoping that people get over that course, that seminar?
Listen, if we can have coaches, the football coaches, they'll walk away with the understanding of the importance of strength and conditioning and nutrition, I'm a happy person. You understand what I'm saying? I really do believe after 15 hours, you're not going to become an expert. It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
If you see what happens and you listen to how this type of training can assist in the development of your players and you as a whole, then I think it may spark some interest in going a little further, digging a little deeper in terms of better understanding of conditioning, or get a strength and conditioning coach involved in your program. You see what I'm saying? Because Javier Malo is not the coach of Madrid. He just happened to be there under Zidane and other coaches for the 8 years that he was there. He's a conditioning coach for the 8 years he was there. Same thing at Manchester City. He was the conditioning coach, and also Atletico Madrid. He didn't do the tactics or the tactical work. He did the conditioning work in line with what the coach was trying to accomplish. That's what we need. We need teams to have a well-rounded team of tactical and technical experts, along with strength and conditioning coaches. It has to happen. As you mentioned before earlier in the show, when I was a kid, or when I started playing football, the coach was everything. And they were everything. I'll leave it at that.
Andrew, let me ask you this question because I think it's relevant. With the time you have with the youngsters, we talk a lot about the professional setup. So they have a big block of time that they can have strength and conditioning, they can have their technical stuff, they can have their technical stuff as well. But with the time that you have with a team on a weekly basis, how much of your thought process of preparing a team now has to change to allow the other stuff to actually filter in? Because you would set up a training session maybe 5 years ago and it was all to do with the technical stuff. Now you want this other stuff to be implemented. How much of that changes your thought process in preparing a session?
Well, we had to make a few adjustments. First, we had to get in line with what other countries are doing, and most countries are playing 40 to 42-week seasons. We only do 20 weeks. Other countries are doing 4 training days plus game. They are used to 2. So what we've done, we've increased our training days to 4, Monday to Thursday, or Friday. If it's a game, we have a tactical session. So we're able to give Liam an isolated day just on Wednesdays, where that can be addressed. And I'm at every session. So I know exactly what we're working on. We communicate. And then we look how we can implement that through my tactical sessions throughout the week. So if I'm doing running with the ball, then what am I looking for from the kid? Body orientation, not just how well is kicking the ball. Does he have the right body mechanics? Is he well balanced? Because all those things are important. So we have to work hand in hand. But Liam can tell you, I don't miss his sessions at all, because they're very important to the kids around.
And that's a big part of what we do is, having that communication. If there's no communication between the sport coach and the strength coach, then I could be doing something totally, contradictory to what he's doing, and vice versa. Or just, sometimes I'll get there and he'll let me know, look, they had a hard session yesterday. Doesn't tell me, anything more than that, but I use that information the best I can, and I'll adjust whatever I have to adjust, or if they have a game the next day, or all those sorts of things. So just opening those lines of communication between the sport coach and the strength coach is huge.
Yeah, well, I know this can only benefit Bermuda, Richard. As you've already stated, you want the information to stay on the island, and you want more people to be involved, and it's only going to enhance the athlete from a young age to build what we want, not just in the sport of football, because I've seen Liam at different, with different athletes. So, we're building a culture, hopefully, at the start of this, in helping people, especially parents, coaches, trainers, everyone, to understand what it's going to take to help develop our young people to become better athletes, and in the end, better citizens as well, because they understand what it takes to actually get to that next level. So again, I want to congratulate you guys for the job that you're doing, what your plan is, what your ideas are, and hopefully the ones that take up this particular course benefit and tell someone else. So the next time we have something of this nature, more people get involved and they see the improvement of what's happening, at the clubs in which the people take it on.
What I can add to that is the fact that for those that have the requisite backgrounds, like Liam and others that have physiology, exercise physiology, PE backgrounds, and understand that at that level, We'll be working with them. When I say we, Javier will be working with them on individualized plans of the following year. In other words, maybe once every 2 months, but it'll be a plan. This is what you want to accomplish. You want to understand periodization training. In other words, putting together a plan over the course of the entire year that incorporates some of the other sports you're doing, but to ensure that you're peaking at the right time, you're avoiding injuries, you're taking the nutrition at the right times. You're not destroying your body by breaking down muscle without replenishing it with protein, that kind of stuff. And so this is ongoing. It's not going to be a one-off. It's not going to be something that 15 hours and done. It is over the next year, and he'll come back in 2023 as a follow-up.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very, very much for your time. We're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
We're featuring a range of remarkably effective household cleaning solutions made with ecologically sound ingredients and pleasing fragrances from Ecos, a company with over 50 years experience producing plant-powered cleaning products. The founder was a veteran chemist in the cleaning products industry and started up Ecos as a response to the harsh chemicals he had routinely encountered. Try Ecos non-abrasive cream cleanser, vinegar window cleaner, and in spray bottles, Orange Plus and Parsley Plus cleaners, shower and floor cleaners, furniture polish, and stain and odor remover. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Well, Jay, information upon information upon information. What we started out in our conversation ended up being, relevant to what Liam and Andrew and Richard elaborated more on, and it's the importance of healthy living, getting kids' minds right, and putting them in the best position to get the most out of them.
Yeah, it was amazing how that conversation went that way, because even me just talking about the structural, we've got those three components. If one component is lacking, it's like a deck of cards, right? It will come falling down. And how, growing up, that component of just the game itself, especially in football, you just had somebody run out with a bucket of water, some ice, and the magic spray, right? And that was it, right? and then
back then we didn't spray. Back then we just ice and water.
How many times did you get a massage by that person? Next to nothing, right? So you see the respect of coaches nowadays across the board in numerous sports, how important it is with the strength and conditioning and nutrition when it comes to athletes. And I want to bring it up because it reminded me, we had a conversation with David Maycock, the Bull, last time he went out to Texas, I believe it was, and what he said, one of his main things that he had to improve on was this conditioning.
Yeah.
And he's a bowler. Even looking at sports like golf, right?
Yeah.
Right. These things, because when you're tired, we all know when you're tired, physically, your mind is gone, right?
Yeah.
We always think about the sports that are very in your face when it comes to physicality. Rather, it's triathlons. We think of Tyler and Flora, but also football and cricket. But when you're talking about these other sports, where you may not think that it's that physical, go-karting once again, yeah, okay. Some people think, well, they're just sitting and steering. Well, and all these things comes into play. Ask any driver, any rider. Pump is no joke.
Yeah. One of the things I should have asked, and probably next time I get Liam, I can ask about the importance of rest.
He mentioned that. He mentioned
He mentioned the recovery.
Yeah.
But the importance of what it takes to replenish that body of rest time. Because we talk about what needs to be done, after a game and so forth, but we always miss out on what time should we be getting to bed, what time should we be getting up, what are, some of the things that sometimes if you overtrain, you can't sleep because your body's so, still up. What are some of the things we need to do to make sure that we can come down and we notice it as we get older. Back in the day, it was called rootedness for us because getting to bed, but we're still so wired we couldn't go to sleep.
Great.
So,
as long as you're in your bed, right? As long as you're in
yeah.
your bed. No, but Earl,
every once in a while you go outside, you say, I can't go to sleep. Oh, okay, you can, huh?
But I bring it back to the age group that we've been focusing on tonight, which has been the young athlete, right?
Mm-hmm.
The young athlete. How do they manage that with a social life?
Yeah.
Or you mentioned earlier, school.
Mm.
Because I've been to some interviews with auditions for kids in the performing arts, and seen some of their bios regarding their exams and the IB program and all these things, and then community hours they have to do to graduate, all the different things, all the criteria that they got to pass to get, to graduate, but also be involved in a sport at a time where you're almost coming into that elite time, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you find that time?
Yeah.
And then he even mentioned burnout. It has been focusing on that one particular sport for so long. We saw that with Tiger Woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, with his knees. And I mean, how much cartilage is left on his knees, between his knees and his back?
Yeah.
Right? So he's
the
even
barn out there somewhere.
No, but listening to him is like the days of me practicing X amount of hours just on swinging. I can't do that no more because my body cannot.
Yeah.
My body cannot do it. So how does he adapt? And that's through strength and conditioning, because of the fact that the younger athletes, they will build up stronger and whatever. Take, for instance, when Tiger first came into it, he was bombing just over 300. Back then, it was like, okay, that's far. No, they're bombing 350, 360, 370, and his end is still at 320. So it's amazing how far we've come, but how far we've yet to get here locally. And it's gonna be interesting with seminars like this, bringing this information, having people like Liam, who's young, getting to be a part of that conversation where some of these kids may be able to relate more to. So, but once again, Mr. Caldron said it up front. Who's the first people he thanked? It's the sponsors, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So that has to happen, and I'm glad that they'll be able to find sponsors for this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll be back next week with another edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. Jay?
Dr. Sakari, famous.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And congratulations to young Sincere Hall, who signed his first professional contract today. So whole city, and more to come. More to come.
I guess I'll see you close to the water this week. You was out there. I don't know if you had your line there when you was taking pictures, but
you can't fish in the great sun.
I knew what you can catch, but you can
they say it's illegal to fish in the great sun. So
I say you can fish.
That's what they think.
You're not supposed to catch, I see.
Well, yeah. I spent a little time on the water yesterday, practicing with the sailors. So.
Actually, before you go, and I want to ask you this because you'll be covering this F-50s or this new style. I would say the new style, new generation of sailing. From a man who has a sailing background, what is it like being on the water, actually seeing that close up? Because from the land is a little different, from TV is a little different, but you're actually on the water, and I'm pretty sure it brought back memories when you was in your probably sunfish. Is like.
To be honest, only people that actually sail would understand this. Those are machines. It's not sailing. It's not sailing. Sailing is competition with, it's hard to explain, but those are machines. Just the materials that's used to build them. They're built for speed. Accidents happen.
Machine.
It's okay. So it's like the Formula One cars. Is that car racing?
Yeah,
it's shaped like a car. It's got wheels. But is it really car racing? Is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sailing, but it's boy. Yeah, it's tough to explain, but
you sound like a grandpa. You know that, right?
But that's the problem. I mean, trying to explain it. I mean, okay, so yesterday I'm there, and if anybody was out watching them sail last year, and just the noise of the boat as it goes across you. It's a big difference. Big difference, man. It's like that whistle, and I'm saying, listen, something could go wrong at any point in time, and I think that's where on race day on Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be important once again, as they do quite well, is make sure that the spectator boats stay away, because these things, I mean, yesterday we were in probably 8 to 10, and they were moving maybe 50, 60, and turning sharply, and they're just training, but when competition comes, it's a different level. You know what I mean? The mind changes, the body changes, everything changes, because now it's about winning.
And that's what I was mentioning, because being out on a Comet,
right?
The speed that you're gonna get up to,
yeah.
The noise you're gonna hear is probably coming from the sail, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Between that and the person that's sitting next to you, that's not laying out. Yeah.
But
that was me.
But when you're talking about something that's going 40, 50, 60 miles on water,
mm-hmm.
It's like you said, that one, and it's a team, and that's why I love it, because the team aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
As well as one person could make a big difference.
Oh,
yeah. Big difference. One mistake, we're seeing one big mistake or one malfunction.
Yeah.
One of these machines, it could be detrimental. So that's the part I do love about it. I understand the purity of what you're talking about.
Yes.
About the purity of it, right?
Yeah.
But where it has evolved to, the competition. Competition is competition.
Oh yeah. As long as everybody's on the same, as long as everybody's in the same, machine or the same equipment.
Yeah.
Yes, that's equal.
Yeah.
It's challenging when you have different equipment in different races and so forth. But to have the opportunity, and I know, I mean, you look at what they're able to produce, for television and so forth. They have their own team done, and they travel with, and everybody benefits from it. They produce so much, and it all looks good because they do it. That's their job. They do it, and then no matter where it is, you get to see it around the world. But it's their production, and they had the crews out yesterday. they're practicing as well because trying to get the angles right, looking at the time, looking where the sun is, looking where the wind direction is coming from. What's the best angle for the cameras and so they're out there as well. So it's a big event, that they actually put on, and we got a first-hand view of it.
But you got a first-hand view of it.
Oh yeah.
I'm hoping to get some type of view on Saturday. I'm hoping. I don't know how close I can get, but I'm hoping to get some type of view.
Yeah.
But I just love what it brings as far as the sport, and not only that, a young person sailing. The gentleman, the youngster you had on the interview yesterday or today?
Yesterday.
Yeah. To see his eyes open up talking about it.
Yeah.
No, after seeing upties and different things, but to hear him talk about the F-50s, you see his eyes open up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just imagine if somebody ever gave him the chance,
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I know a lot of sailors that would say, you know what, I'll pass. I'll pass because of the equipment, because of what is required. I mean, how many times do you see a sailor run across a deck? And if they do run across the deck, the boat's not moving 50 or 60 mile an hour, and nothing to hang on to.
No.
Run across. So you missed that little time, and when she turns, man overboard.
So what does it say?
That happened in training.
So what does that say for you getting overboard in a small boat?
Hey, the boat don't go that far away from you.
Anything is possible, right?
Well, yes. Well, when you go over, one thing about it, even a comment, if you go over, you hang on to something, you hang on to a rope, you hang on to, so the boat doesn't get away from you. You just don't jump away from it. You know what I mean? You practice that type of stuff on, how you're gonna get the boat back up. You have to turn your nose into the wind. Loosen up your sails, bring the boat back up. Once the boat's back up, and the boats that we have now for coming sailing, once you start sailing, your water runs out because it's a double bottom.
Right.
So that's improved the technology on them. Before the wooden ones, it's like the dinghy racing. Y'all for the rest of that race, maybe because you're bailing. So it's. I just think having sailors, anybody that loves the sport will have an opportunity to see these guys perform. But knowing that traditional sailing is a little more difficult than what they're doing. What they're doing is a lot tactical, making sure that nobody makes a mistake.
You made it sound like the test versus 2020 cricket, man.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen. You would rather take 2.5 hours to get from St. George's to Somerset, from the East End Mini Yacht Club to West End Sailboat Club, than trying to get out of the St. George's Harbor in one of those 50s. There's foiling. Because getting out of there, boy, I tell you, you get one thing wrong, it's not that much room for, maybe 2 of them get through there. Jesus, that could be dangerous.
Hopefully everything goes right, and hopefully we have some good competition. And hey, I can't wait to this weekend because I'm really curious. I've never been that close up to it. Last year, I think me and you, we went Fort Scarborough, took some pictures. So quite a ways of it.
But getting on the water, it's a good experience to be on the water if there's an opportunity to be on the water, to be up close and personal with those boats and just hear them and see what work goes into them. The unfortunate thing last year, we were just maybe 30 yards away from the crash that ended the day for United States, and I can't remember the other team, but when you're that close to it, you can hear it and see it, and watching it on television is one thing, but when you can hear it and see it and you're in person, man, oh man, you see that metal crumble.
Yeah, expensive metal too.
Oh boy,
that's expensive metal.
Gotta go down Gorham's to get that. All right, partner. You have a good night.
Take care, buddy.
Good.